Some very common one, which you probably, again, depending, but they are the very common, and stress, general anxiety disorders, panic attacks, major depressive disorders, and of course, marital issues. And I'm just going to say a few words on each of these anyway. So when we talk about stress, we're talking about, how our body responds to certain demands. But stress is not only psychological, it's physiological, it's biological anyway. Something happened in your body anyway, and it can cause physical, emotional, and behavioral disorders. And of course, it affects your health as well, not only your health, but also your sort of psyche, your peace of mind, and also, it also can get in the way of your personal relationship or your professional relationship as well. Now, too much stress is bad for you, but, for example, if you have too much stress, that can lead to insomnia, which is, difficulty in sleeping, but also, backache. You see, backache, which is nothing to do, backache is physical, but, you have headache as well, and dependings, and of course can contribute to potentially, to life-threatening, disorders like, again, high blood pressure, hypertension, heart disease, and so forth. So you can see that, you cannot look at purely a mental and, sometimes they all. So that's stress. When we talk about general anxiety disorders, this is an excessive feeling, excessive feeling of worry, excessive feeling of a concern as well, anyway, about things that you cannot control, that are totally independent, of stress-causing event. Stress-causing mean stresses. You have different stresses, and these stresses that impinge on you. But also, I think, to talk about stress again, it's how you perceive stress as well. What I mean by that is, how do we look at stress, and and our, that will make a difference on how we cope with it as well. Of course, our perception is influenced by many factors, and so, this is another issue anyway. But going back to anxiety disorders, you have symptoms, for example, of, we might go to some of these later on anyway, of sleeping and feeling, panic. That's another thing which lead to the next one, panic attacks. And people have sweaty hand, cold hand, sweaty hand, and dry mouth, and shortness of breath, and not being able to stay calm anyway. And then you have panic attacks, which is related. They're all related to one another anyway. You have sudden, that's a sudden onset of intense fear, and the discomfort that reaches its peak within minutes anyway. And the other day I stopped thinking about death, and I was anxious, of course, and it was not panic attack that stage, but suddenly I thought of death. I mean, you have, as Muslim, you think of death, you should do every day, but anyway, but and what I was making it right in the morning when you wake up, and so forth, and and I thought about it, and it just and then of course I managed to come to terms with it. But it does happen that you have increased heartbeat, you have sweating, it all depends, trembling and nausea, feeling of some people can't breathe anyway, choking, and some people, I know one of my patients, I don't know how many times he went to an extended emergency because he thought he was having a heart attack, and of course he didn't have an heart attack. When they did the electrocardiogram, he just had panic anxiety attack. He was a big man, so it's very common. Dizziness, fear of losing control, fear of dying, which as I mentioned before, and a feeling of unsteady, and some people have numbness, or sometimes not only numbness but also tingling sensations in their extremity. Of course, you have major depressive orders. This is a period of constant hopelessness and despair. And of course, there are a lot of symptoms of to do with sleep, enjoying life, eating, and losing weight, and so forth. Of course, then you have marital issues, that may involve, problem relationship, problem with communication, domestic abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, many type of abuse as well, and addiction, and many other issues.